Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Wednesday, January 17th. I guess I'll start off with a health update. Things are looking better. I talked about that before. My usual way of handling, getting ill from something you eat or drink is basically to stop eating. And I did that this time, and I ended up having no food at all for 6 days, pretty long. And then on the seventh day, which was 2 days ago, on the seventh day, I had one meal. And then the day after that, again, nothing to eat. So today is day number 9, I guess. And I'm going to go back to kind of regular eating, but I'm not going to go crazy. As I come out of one of these illnesses, I sort of have to ease back into eating, which is why I had just the one meal. So 6 days of no eating, then one day I had one meal, and then the day after, no food at all, and then today I'll have one meal, maybe a meal and a snack, and then ease back into regular life. But things are looking good, and once more, instant coffee got me through the 6 days, 6 days of fasting. But here I am, back on the mend. As always, I have a variety of topics that might fall under the technology travails portion of my life. And one is, running my Olympus camera, which I'm operating right now, is a little bit complicated because the batteries run out quite quickly and my battery door is broken, and every time the battery runs out mid-recording, as it will this morning, then I have to dig out this little lever that I have that broke off the camera, insert it when the camera is on the tripod, kind of upside down, kind of get the battery door open, get the battery out, put in the new battery, but every time I remove the battery, it wipes out the memory of the camera. So then if I want to keep track of my video files, I have to go into the menu system, reset the date and the time. I have to do that every time I change the battery. So this morning I was wondering whether I could just run the camera off USB power. And I have a special Olympus USB cord. They have a proprietary USB port, so you can't use USB-C or USB micro. Those don't fit into this camera, but I have the official Olympus cord, and I thought, maybe I can just plug this in and run it off USB power while I'm recording. It seems like every camera in the world should be able to do that automatically. It seems like a no-brainer, like saying that every car should have a gas pedal. Of course, this USB power feature feels like a no-brainer that every camera should be able to do it automatically. But it turns out it's a very tricky thing to do, and most cameras can't do it. The ability to operate your camera on USB power is kind of a special feature, and you look for it in your camera, but it turns out my Olympus cannot do it. I guess you can buy some kind of a third-party dummy battery. Some company in China makes one, so you actually put a battery into the Olympus, but that battery has a power cord coming off of it, and then you can trick the camera into thinking it's running off a battery when in fact it's getting power from a wall outlet. But of course I don't have one of those, and to be honest, I don't think I would trust it. It seems like that would eventually damage the circuitry somehow, unless it's an official Olympus product. And I guess there's some kind of a hand grip you can get for this camera, and maybe the hand grip has hot swappable battery capability. I don't know. I haven't looked into that because it's not like I'm going to buy a hand grip for this camera. But anyway, I thought I would try it for myself, and this morning as I was getting set up, I plugged this into the Olympus, and then you get all kinds of options where it says, different, I didn't understand them all. There's like 5 or 6 options for plugging in your USB cable, like firmware update or a media transfer or connecting your computer to your camera. You have all these options. Like it asks you, what do you want to do with this cable? But in that list, none of them, there is no option to remotely power the camera. It's just not possible. I tried everything, but no matter what I did, you can't plug in a cable and record video at the same time. So the only option is to use batteries, and then I just have to keep switching them out if they run out of power. So that was my initial technology adventure this morning. Another technology adventure happened yesterday. I was here in my room, just minding my own business, living that exciting Planet Doug life, and then I got an email notification. I looked at it and it said something like emergency Air Asia, and I opened the email and it said that my flight back to Malaysia had been canceled. It's like, whoa, okay, that's kind of a new experience. I don't think I've ever had a flight canceled. Maybe it happened one other time in my life, I'm not sure. But it's not a common thing for me. So I was like, whoa, all right, what's, ooh. Power just went out. But at least that doesn't affect my microphone, and it doesn't affect the camera, so I can keep babbling. I have the light from my laptop, like I'm in a haunted house here, telling a scary story of a modern technology. And we can see how the Olympus operates in very dark conditions. Anyway, this flight on Air Asia is from, there we go, power's back. This flight is from Banda Aceh back to Kuala Lumpur, and it's scheduled for February 3rd, which is like a few days before my visa expires. So that's what the flight was, but it said it was canceled, and I opened up the email, and it turns out it was a very complex email because there were a variety of options. So whatever, I was working on editing a video at the time, but I set aside the video because I was going to have to dive into this problem and deal with it. And the first option was something they did automatically. So they said in the email, okay, your flight was canceled, and we have automatically moved your booking to a different flight. So you are already confirmed and you're all set to go on this flight. And if you're happy with that, you don't have to do anything. So I looked at it and I was vaguely happy. Of course, it was still a flight from Banda Aceh back to Kuala Lumpur, but instead of a late afternoon flight, because I'd booked a flight in late afternoon, which is a good time for me to go, my booking had been transferred to a flight on the same day, but it was leaving at something like 7:45 in the morning, same day. And I wasn't happy about that because it basically means, well, yeah, I mean, if your flight is at 7:45 in the morning, you have to get to the airport at whatever, 6 at the latest, 5:45 to be 2 hours in advance. And then you'd have to leave for the airport, at 3, 4 in the morning, which means I'm going to get zero sleep the night before, because with an early wake up like that and going to the airport, there is no way I'll be able to turn my brain off and fall asleep. There's just no way. So it'll be an entire, sleepless night, and then going to the airport and doing an international flight on no sleep at all. And I really didn't want to do that. So I thought, okay, how do I change to can I move it to a different day? Is this possible? So then I started reading down the email. So that was option number 1. They automatically transferred me to a flight on the same day, an early morning flight. So that was option number 1, the easiest option. If I just leave it alone, I don't have to do anything. Option number 2, they gave me a button that said, if you want to book a different flight, click this button, and that button, they said, you can only do this one time at no charge. So because my flight was canceled, they're giving me the option to change to a different flight at no extra charge. And I immediately thought, okay, that's probably what I'm going to do, but let's keep reading. And then at the next option was some kind of a account credit. So basically I can cancel that flight. They will give me credit, AirAsia credit, and then I guess I can use that credit to buy another flight, to book another flight out of another city, whatever it is I want to do. Not even out of Indonesia, I can just use it at some point in the future. And that seemed like a pretty good option, but when I read through the 2 or 3 paragraphs of information, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. There was something about if your credit account is connected to Big Pay and Big Pay is connected to your main account, you can use this credit. It is a credit possibility in this situation, but not here. And this, it was really, really complicated. And I thought, that seems like a simple option, you know, just basically get a refund, but not a cash refund. It would be a credit. But it wasn't clear to me how I would be able to use that credit, if I would be able to use it. It looked really complicated. So I kind of thought, okay, I don't think I'm going to do that. And then there was something about some kind of a refund option, but that was also very complicated. It sounded like there were a lot of fees involved. You know, we can refund you this portion, but not that portion. You still have to pay this and cancellation. You have to have this kind of insurance in order to get full refund, this and that. And it said, you know, the refund to your payment method, whatever you used, will show up in 4 to 6 weeks, you know. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound very good to me either. So out of all of the options, using the button, just change to a new flight, that seemed to be the best option. A little side note, the power has been going out here quite a bit lately. And then every time the power goes out, I get kicked off all the Wi-Fi networks here because they have this weird, I hate this system. Some older hotels still have this system where they don't really have a Wi-Fi network. They give you a Wi-Fi hotspot, and you have to connect all your devices to their website hotspot. And I don't like that system. It feels like there's a barrier between you and the Wi-Fi signal, and I keep getting kicked out of it, so I have to keep logging back into their hotspot over and over again. And I have to do it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different devices, because I have 5 devices that I connect to the internet. And anyway, I just had to reconnect my laptop because I'm busy uploading another behind-the-scenes video right now. But then I'm going to have to reconnect my phones and reconnect my tablet, and that is all very annoying. I hate the hotspot system. I don't know why some hotels still have that antiquated system. I guess it's because this is an antiquated hotel, and I do like my hotels to be antiquated, so I can't get annoyed at that. You know, if you pick your antiquated hotel, you pay the antiquated price. Anyway, I was a little bit nervous about this button in the email because one of my rules of thumb for protecting me from all the scammers out there is never click on links. I mean, if you want to go to a website, go to that website directly. If you want to do something with your AirAsia flight booking, well, open the app on your phone, go to your AirAsia account, and then do everything directly from there. Don't click on a link in an email and imagine that it's going to take you to the AirAsia account, and then they start asking you for your credit card details and passwords, and you start entering all this in, and of course it turns out you've been entering it all into some sort of a dummy website that mimics an AirAsia website. But I tried to do that. I tried to go into the AirAsia app, and I couldn't do it. Well, I could go into my app, but I could see that my flight had automatically been changed to the new one, the early morning flight. That was all completed and I was confirmed for that flight. But then when I tried to look for this offer, like the free one-time offer to change to a different day, it wasn't available on the app. I did all the roaming around that I could, and it turns out the only way I could do it was to click on that button in the email. Anyway, I looked at the email really carefully, you know, just checking for anything. Like if there's even one spelling mistake, I'm not going to risk it. But it looked perfect. Everything looked real. All the information they told me about how my flight had automatically been transferred, about how my booking had been transferred from my original flight to a new flight, all of that was confirmed in my app. So everything looked legit. So I thought, okay, I think I can trust this one. And then I clicked on the button, expecting to be taken to the Air Asia, you know, app or website on my laptop. And then I would be able to go into the flights, you know, look at the flights on the different days, and then pick my flight and then book that one instead. But to my surprise, it didn't work that way at all. When I clicked on the button, it brought me to a chat window. And the chat window, of course, is being run by some kind of an AI. It's not a human being, but it does have a, you know, kind of a cartoon picture of a person. And they said, hi, my name is Bo. You know, I see that your flight has been moved from here to here because your original flight was canceled. So here are your options. You know, if you wish to do anything else, here's what you can do. And it gave me a list of, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 options. And then it indicated that I had to pick one of those options by choosing 1, 2, 3, or 4, entering that number in the chat window. This is all brand new to me. I've never had done anything like this before. It seemed very advanced in a way that I was doing this through a chat window talking to a computer, but it also seemed very primitive too. The way the interface seemed extremely primitive. But anyway, I looked at all my options and I saw the one of change to a new flight on a different day. And I chose that. I think it was number 1 or number 2. I can't remember. Let's say number 2. So I typed 2 in the chat window and hit enter. And then I got all these options that said, okay, please enter the date that you want to fly on and enter the date in this pattern with like day, month, year. And it specified how to do it. So I had to type out the day that I wanted to fly on. And I decided to fly out 2 days later on the 5th. So I put in, you know, 05-02-2024. That's all I wrote because that's all they asked for. I hit enter. So it's not like that's what I mean about it being primitive. It's not like they said, it's not like they gave me a calendar and said, click on the day that you want to fly. They told me to enter it almost in code, and I had to be very careful to enter it in the proper format. And that feels like a throwback to the early 2000s or the 1990s or something like that. So here I am dealing with an advanced AI, but I'm using an interface that feels like it's from 20 years ago. But anyway, you have to be very careful to put it in properly. And again, being a North American, of course, I put in my dates differently. I'm accustomed to month, day, year. You know, like in my brain, to me it seems more logical, the sort of American way of doing things, because it's February 5th, 2024. So I put in 02/05/2024. But the rest of the world, I think the entire world, does it from little to big, day, month, year. So in my brain, I have to make sure I flip the numbers. And I checked it, and I double checked it, and I triple checked it, because I'm terrified of making a mistake, you know, while I'm in the middle of dealing with an AI All right, I don't want to set off World War III or something. So put in the date, and then as soon as I put in the date, the chat bot came back and said, oh, here are your options. Choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. So it gave me a selection of flights to choose from, but there was only one. Like it says, okay, choose from 1, 2, 3, and 4, but in the list there was number 1, and there was one flight. Because, I mean, there's only one flight on that day that was available going from Banda Aceh to Kuala Lumpur. So again, it was quite primitive. It said, choose one of the following 4 flights, but then it only gave me one flight as an option. Luckily, that one turned out to be at the right time. It was an afternoon flight, the same time as my original at 5:45, I believe. It's a bit late in the day for me. It's not perfect, but you know, when you're looking at budget flights, you don't have a lot of choices. You know, if you're flying on a budget airline looking for the cheapest flight, they will give you early in the morning or late in the day. Those are when, you know, the budget airlines, they get those time slots. The more expensive airlines, they get the nice ones, you know, during daylight hours. That's just the way life is, right? So with my budget airline, budget time slot. So yeah, they gave me 1, 2, 3, 4 options, but only one of them was there. So I very carefully hit number 1. And I had to be really careful about this too, because as I've talked about, all the keys on my MacBook, they're falling off and I'm having to replace them with other keys. So all of my number keys are being slowly switched out for broken letter keys. So even though I have number pads, like number keys up here, a lot of them have letters on them. So right now I'm always making mistakes. I'm trying to type a date and it's, you know, 6, 7, or 8, or 9 or something like that. But instead of 6, 7, 8, and 9, my keyboard reads O, F, R, and Q, you know, things like that. So I have to kind of like figure out. Luckily, number 1 is still number 1. So I hit number 1, hit enter. And then it gave me a whole bunch of other options for this flight. You know, choose from 1, 2, 3, 4, choose from 1, 2, 3, 4. I went through the sequence. And then, are you absolutely sure that you want to do this? Oh, and by the way, this flight was much more expensive than my original. So you could say that I saved money. Like one of the reasons I didn't book the February 5th flight in advance, I chose February 3rd. It was something like 200 ringgit cheaper to go on the 3rd as opposed to the 5th. But now I was getting a free date change and from the same city. But price didn't seem to matter. I could pick any flight I wanted regardless of price. So that was a benefit. So I was kind of, you know, it's always nice, you feel like you're getting a little bit of a deal. And then it turns out that this flight was, you know, I don't know what it was. It ended up being 100, 150 ringgit more expensive than my original flight, but I got the, you know, upgrade for free. So I chose that one and everything seemed fine. It's like, thank you very much. You've been confirmed. We will send you an email, you know, giving you all the details. So I was kind of happy. It was like, whew, that worked out better than I thought. But then the AI came back and said, okay, your flight has been confirmed, but now would you like to pay for your add-ons? And now I was like, what the heck does that mean? Because the add-ons were baggage, meal, seat selection, insurance, right? All these things, because with a budget airline, right? None of that is included. You've got the base fare, that's always really, really cheap. And then it says, oh, well, we can give you these value packs, or like if you want to check a bag, you have to pay for it separately. And then by the time you pay for a checked bag, choose your seat and have a meal, of course, the base fare has doubled. You know, those add-ons will double the cost of the flight. But I had already done that in my original flight. You can get what they call a value pack. And I went for the value pack because I needed to check a bag. So I have to pay for luggage no matter what. And if you get the luggage by itself, it's almost the same price as the value pack. So I always get the value pack, and then I get a check bag, I get Uncle Ben's chicken rice, which I get the same meal every time, and then I get to choose my seat, and I get some kind of a weird insurance that I'll never ever use. So in my original flight, I already had a seat, a meal, check bag, insurance. All of that had been confirmed and paid for. And I went through a process of just changing to a new day. But now the AI was saying, would you like add-ons, such as baggage, seat selection? And it gave me, choose 1, 2, 3, 4, for which one you want. But it didn't say what this meant. Like it says, well, like it didn't say, oh, well, you already have 20 kilograms checked baggage you've already paid for, but would you like to get more? And it didn't say, oh, you already have a seat selection, but would you like to upgrade to a more expensive seat? Like, it's not telling me whether these are the original add-ons or extra add-ons, and now I was kind of stuck. I'm in the middle of an online conversation with a computer, and I don't know what to do, because again, it's not a human being. It's not like I can stop the process and ask them a question. It's like, oh, like, what does this mean? I can either continue the procedure or not, and I wasn't sure what to do. And I kind of did some digging around. I went to my app, I went to my confirmed booking to see like what's involved. Like, okay, here's my new flight. Open up the details and like, do I have checked baggage? Oh yes, I do. Does it list a seat number? Oh yes, it does list a seat number. But I'm not sure whether the AI was asking me to pay for these now, the ones I've already selected, or whether it was asking me for new ones. I just didn't know. And it was made even more confusing because there is one glitch in the AirAsia system when it comes to meals. When you get the value pack and then you choose a meal, in the app it always tells me, oh, now you have selected 2 meals. Like, it never manages to number your meals appropriately. And as soon as because it tells me, oh, you have 2 meals selected. I'm like, oh, I must have made a mistake. So I unselect my meal. And then when I get to the end of the system, it says, oh, you haven't selected a meal yet. I'm like, what? Yeah. So I click on it and it says, oh, you've selected 2 meals. So I can't win either way. And then when you go to the app and you look at your booking, it says 0 meals, like as if I have not selected a meal, even though it says Uncle Ben's chicken rice, but then beside it, it says number of meals selected 0. So I couldn't even tell whether I had selected a meal or not. And of course, I don't care whether I get a meal or not. I'm more worried about the checked bag, because if you pay for it in advance, it's really cheap. You show up at the airport with 20 kilograms and just pay for it on the spot, it's going to cost more than your whole flight, probably double the cost of your flight. So I was worried about the baggage. Anyway, in the end, I decided to at least experiment a little bit. And I did click on number 1 for baggage, just to see what the next step is. I wasn't going to pay for it yet, but then I just hit number 1, enter, and then it started out this process. But I didn't like it. It didn't look right. I noticed that, again, that in a lot of this and in the booking, it's the word offset has shown up everywhere. And I don't know what that means. It said baggage, 20 kilograms, offset. Seat selection, my seat number, offset. And then below it, it had a list of new, it's really, really confusing. And it had offset listed beside everything. And the AI chat said offset as well for everything. And in the end, I decided, no, I'm not going to double pay for all of this now. And then I noticed that there was an end chat button. So I just said, okay, end chat. And, kind of like, I'm like crossing my fingers, closing my eyes, because I don't know what's going to happen if I'm ending the chat at this point. Maybe everything will be canceled and I'll lose the flight booking. I don't know. So I'm like, end chat. but everything seemed to be okay. But I still didn't understand what had happened. And they asked me for my feedback, like AirAsia popped up a survey window, and I went through the whole survey. I do these quite often because at the very end, they give you a little box that says, you know, anything else you'd like to say. And I write all this stuff out. I've told AirAsia over and over that every time I book a meal, you guys tell me I have 2 meals. And then when I try to deselect a meal, you won't let me proceed because you tell me now I haven't selected one. So like, which is it? Like there's a glitch in your system. I've told them that many, many times. And here I told them about how, okay, the whole system worked. However, at the end, I was confused about this additional add-on conversation. I don't know what that meant. It was confusing and I didn't know what to do. So I gave them all that feedback. And then I went out. I went out in the day. I'm doing this. I'm doing other things. I'm doing things. I come back to the hotel. I turn on my laptop. And when I load up Google Chrome, this AI chat window popped up again. Like I ended it. I closed it. But when I turned on my computer, I guess it was still active in the background. And it started all over from the beginning and said, oh, we've seen that your flight was canceled. And would you like to do this or do that or do this or like move to a different day? I was like, what? Why? You know, I thought I was done, right? But like now, I don't really know what's going on because I went back to my app. I got the email that said my new flight has been booked and confirmed. On my app, it shows it. But the AI is now pestering me with this chat window telling me I need to do something about my canceled flight. So, yeah, the world of AI and chat, computers, chatbots, there are a few kinks, I think, that need to be worked out. But that was a very interesting experience, though. I hadn't done anything like that before. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it and gave me yet another story to tell here on behind the scenes. For the world of Planet Doug, I finished editing my Rahmat Wildlife Museum video. I finished editing that video and I've already uploaded it to YouTube and I have it scheduled to go live at a certain date. I've got a couple of videos I've already uploaded, a couple of meals that I had, and yeah, different places. There's some videos in the queue, so this Rahmat video will be showing up in a few days, I guess. But yeah, editing the video is kind of interesting. Because one thing I did on that day, which was unusual for me, is that I wore these. And the reason I wore them, it's a pretty complicated scene, to be honest. All things being equal, in my life, I would wear sunglasses all the time because I love them. These are Oakley. These were given to me by a Planet Doug subscriber, and I love these sunglasses. You know, I think they look okay. You know, they're Oakley. When in my life have I ever had, you know, anything as fancy as Oakley sunglasses? But here they are, and they're polarized. That's the key. They're polarized sunglasses. So when you go out into the world on a sunny day, you know, it blocks the light. It's much more comfortable for your eyes, but the world looks so much better. You see in the shadows better, the highlights are better, colors are richer. The world is just much, much nicer looking when you're wearing polarized sunglasses. And I have my own, like years and years ago, like 25 years ago now, oh, maybe even way before that, at least 25 years ago, I bought a pair of polarized sunglasses. I don't remember the brand. They weren't fashionable. They were like mountaineering glasses, so they actually are big ones that kind of wrap around, and you even have cups, like leather cups that you can put on the side because they're designed for you to climb Everest, and when you're up in bright snow, you don't even want light coming in from the side, so you can actually close them all the way in. And they're really, really good sunglasses, but they're sport sunglasses, you know, for mountain climbing. but they don't look very good. They look really goofy because of the design. And I would normally use those, but now that I have these, I didn't even bring my mountaineering. They're still in Malaysia. I just brought these with me. And what I was getting at is that I would wear them all the time, except I've gotten older and I need reading glasses. Like if I want to read my laptop screen, I have to put these on. And if I'm out in the city and I want to, do something on my phone or my camera, I have to put these on, do something, change the settings on my camera and take them off again. So I've got these dangling around my neck. I've got a microphone dangling around my neck. I've got a chest harness with a GoPro sitting on my chest. Anyway, I'm dripping with stuff. So if I put these on, and I put them, say, on some kind of a, neck cord, just like my reading glasses, now, look at this, I got 2 pairs of glasses, a microphone, a camera. They all get tangled, they get caught on each other. I put these on, I got to take these off, put these on, take them off, put these on, and they're all clicking against the microphone. It's too much. So I don't put them on. I generally don't wear them, but I want to. And the other day I watched a video from a YouTuber called It's Sky. He's a young American YouTuber based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and he's been posting sort of YouTube helper videos. So he's like posting a lot of videos giving advice about camera gear, filming techniques, and anything he can think of. He's building an audience of small YouTubers like me who are trying to improve their YouTube channel, and you watch his videos and he gives you filming advice. Anyway, he uploaded this video recently in which he talked about some techniques for feeling comfortable in public. So like when you're walking around, with your GoPro and you're talking into the camera, of course, you stand out, you draw attention, and I guess a lot of people are uncomfortable in public doing that. Luckily, I don't have that problem. It doesn't bother me at all. I can walk out into the public anywhere. I don't know, I have this really strong feeling of talking to someone. Like when I'm out shooting a Planet Doug video and I'm looking at the GoPro, I really feel like I'm talking to you. I really have that feeling. So I'm so focused on this conversation with another person that I don't know, it doesn't bother me at all. Like there could be 100 people standing in a circle looking at me and I wouldn't notice them. Then even if I did notice them, I'm like, hey there guys, hey, and then I'll just keep talking. Anyway, I'm perfectly comfortable doing anything out in public. And I think part of the reason for that is most of my life has been overseas. So it's normal for me to look different. I mean, if I go out into Medan right now, I'm going to be the only 6-foot white dude on the street. So for all the local people, something interesting to look at. It's like, oh, look, boule, hey, you get a lot of attention all the time. And I've just become so accustomed to that when I break out a GoPro and now I'm walking down the street talking to a camera, to me, it's no different. I put the GoPro away, I'm still getting the same level of attention than if I have the GoPro. Maybe the GoPro even means I get less attention because people see that I'm busy doing something and maybe they don't talk to me. Who knows? But anyway, maybe it would be different, if I went back to Canada and I walked around my hometown where just about everybody in my hometown looks exactly like me. Then if I break out a camera, maybe I would be more self-conscious there. That's a possibility. I've just never done it. I haven't been back to Canada ever since I started shooting video. So anyway, that's interesting. But anyway, to get back to the tips from It's Sky, he had a variety of tips, 3 of them, just 3. And 2 of them I remember, 1 of them I don't really remember. I think number 2 was to have some kind of a prop like a laptop. So like when he goes into a coffee shop in Rotterdam or in downtown Amsterdam, and he wants to shoot a vlog, talk into his camera while he's in the coffee shop, he will take out his MacBook, put it on the table, and open up the lid. So now in his mind, if anybody looks at him, he looks like a guy working on his laptop or having a Zoom meeting or something. So for him, having his laptop on the table makes him feel less conspicuous, and he's more comfortable talking into the camera, right? He mounts the camera on the table or something, and then it looks like he's working, and that makes him more comfortable. So that was his tip number 2. To me, it seems kind of irrelevant. I don't think it has any effect on the people around you. Like if I go into a Starbucks in Kuala Lumpur and I sit down and I'm having a coffee and I have my GoPro like clamped to the table and I'm talking to the GoPro, people walking by will look at me, oh, there's a guy. There's one of those dumb vloggers, like we're like cockroaches now, like we're spreading across the globe. At worst, people are like, oh, another YouTuber, look at that, Or they like YouTubers and they're, they walk by the camera and then they're like, hey, peace sign into the camera. So, but if I was doing that and I had my laptop on the table at the same time, from the point of view of people looking at me, I don't think it makes any difference, to be honest. But for It's Sky, having the laptop as a prop makes him feel more comfortable, even though I don't think it really has any effect in the world. But anyway, and his 3rd tip, he called the Big Daddy approach. And he calls it the Big Daddy approach because of the Adam Sandler movie, Big Daddy. I don't think I've seen it, but I think I know the scene he's talking about where Adam Sandler's with a young boy who is really shy in public. And then Adam Sandler gave him a pair of sunglasses and told the kid that these are magic sunglasses, and when you put them on, you become invisible. Nobody can see you. So the kid believes him, puts on his sunglasses, thinks he's invisible, nobody can see him, and now he's much braver out in public. So It's Sky says that if you are shy about speaking on camera and vlogging and being a YouTuber, one trick is to put on sunglasses, and now you will feel more comfortable. Because, I don't know, to be honest, I don't agree with it either, but he says when you put them on, you feel like you're less exposed. And I guess it's because people can't see your eyes, and people don't know where you're looking. And if I'm walking like this, you don't know where my eyes are, what I'm looking at. I could be looking over here, I could be looking over there. But when you are out walking around like this and talking into the camera, well, obviously I'm looking at the camera. So, I don't see how, walking around like this, talking into the GoPro, and then suddenly putting on sunglasses and talking into the GoPro. People know I'm looking at the camera, right? Maybe I'm pretending to look at the camera while in fact I'm looking over here. But why would I be doing that? Because if you're not looking at the camera, chances are, the GoPro suddenly starts tilting and you don't know what you're filming anymore. You're looking at your GoPro. And then of course, if you turn the GoPro around and then you're filming things around you, well, I don't know. It doesn't exactly hide what you're looking at. The one situation where it's true, and It's Sky talks about it, but I don't think he understood what Casey was doing. That's in the case of Casey Neistat, the original grandpapa of YouTube vloggers. He was famous for wearing sunglasses all the time. And I think he was the very first person to do it. And he explained why he did it. And the reason he did it was because he likes looking at the LCD screen. But of course, if you're holding a camera very close to your face like he does, and he looks at the LCD screen, you can see he's not looking at the lens. But he likes to see, okay, is it in focus? Is it framed right? Is it recording? How are the audio levels? You know, he's a very professional filmmaker, so he's busy monitoring all of the stats, but he doesn't want to look like he's looking away from the lens. So his solution was to put on sunglasses, and then now he keeps his head pointed at the lens, but his eyes, he's never ever looking at the lens. He looks at himself in the LCD screen, and he wears sunglasses to hide what he's doing. So, and that makes perfect sense to me. That I get. But in my case, I don't look at the LCD screen anyway. I just automatically look at the lens. Most of the time, with this Olympus, I don't have the LCD screen open anyway. I always have it closed because I don't use it. So anyway, but okay, long tangent, but all of that was to explain why for my Rahmat video, go walking to the museum, I was wearing sunglasses. So I just said, I don't believe in any of these reasons that Sky talked about, and they're irrelevant to me because I don't need to hide behind sunglasses. You know, I'm perfectly fine without them. But the reason I did it is, well, I thought, I'm thinking about sunglasses now, so why not? Let's just wear them. It was a sunny day, made the world more beautiful. And I do have this weird sense of embarrassment when I'm very close to like Indonesian people, like say if some young students want to take a selfie with me or something, I do get a little bit self-conscious about my appearance, because I see when I'm editing the videos, I see what my face looks like. I look old, I look tired now, huge bags under my eyes, I'm sweating. I look like a bit of a wreck. And I feel guilty that, these, young, beautiful, fresh-faced Indonesian students come running up to me, can we take a selfie? Can we take a selfie? And I'm like, sure, let's take a picture together. And yet, for that picture, I want to be a better foreigner for them. Like, I want to be younger, better looking, less sweaty, less tired, and I want to be more cool, right? They're getting a picture with a foreigner, and they're going to post that picture to their Facebook or Instagram page. Hey, yeah, I met this bule. Look, I took a picture with a bule. They're doing it as a fun part of their social media life. So I want to help them. They want to take a picture with a cool foreigner. I want to be the coolest foreigner I can be for them. And yet I have this feeling like, I look so terrible. They probably want to take a picture with, the Lost Boys YouTuber or all these other very young, very attractive YouTubers that are roaming around Sumatra. So anyway, I was thinking, hey, that can be my version of, what did I call it? The Big Daddy prop. Maybe if I put these on, and now I'm walking around Medan, and someone says, hey, can we take selfies together? I'm like, yeah. And then I'll pose with them wearing sunglasses. It hides the huge bags under my eyes. It makes me look better. I look more exciting. I look cool. I look more foreign. So now all of these students looking for a selfie, they no longer have a selfie with this, exhausted looking foreigner. They have they have a selfie with this cool guy wearing sunglasses, wearing his Oakleys, So, so anyway, I had this weird thought, and I thought, hey, I don't know, let's try it, see how it feels. And what I did physically, instead of putting them on, neck cord, all I did was wear them like this, and every time I had to switch, I just put them kind of in my pocket. I used one of the ears and I just slid that into my pocket. And then I, used my reading glasses to check Google Maps, and then I took these off, and then I put the sunglasses back on, It didn't work very well, but when I was editing the Rahmat video, the museum video, when I first saw myself, the very first video clip of me wearing these sunglasses, I was kind of like, ooh, I don't like that. You don't look like yourself anymore. It feels like there's a barrier between me and the world. I don't like it. But by the time I got to the end of the video editing it, I got used to it and I kind of liked it. It was sort of like, you look cool wearing your Oakley sunglasses. And anyway, I don't know whether I'll do it much in the future, because I do have this feeling like it's a barrier between me and people. It feels rude to wear sunglasses when I'm talking to people, because I'm not accustomed to wearing sunglasses like that. I started wearing sunglasses like these when I was riding my bicycle long distances, but then every time I stopped the bike to talk to people, my instinct was to remove the sunglasses. So someone would say, hey, hello, where are you from? And I stop the bike, and the first thing I do is take off the glasses while I'm talking to them. Okay, hello, yeah, I'm from Canada, we have a chat. And then when I leave, I put them back on. It feels rude to wear them face to face with other people, but it probably isn't. I mean, people are accustomed to sunglasses these days. But anyway, it was kind of a enjoyable, a new change of pace to wear the sunglasses, Yeah, for the Rahmat video and editing it, I had some problems, technical problems. One is, I don't understand it. I use this Rode Wireless Go 2. I'm using the number 2 version this morning when I'm out shooting Planet Doug videos, because I want to have the internal recording, because this version of the Rode Wireless Go makes 2 audio copies. It makes 1 copy in the camera with the video, but it saves a backup audio track internally. But something I've noticed is that with this Rode, sometimes it fails. Like when I went to the Wildlife Museum, I recorded video all the way there using this microphone, but at the end of the day, when I plugged it into my computer to download the audio tracks, they weren't there. And that happens occasionally to me, not frequently, but it happens enough to be annoying. And it's not that it didn't record the audio, it does record all the time, but occasionally it won't show up in the app. So I'll plug the microphone into my computer and I'll see 1 or 2 audio tracks, but there should have been 6, right? So there might be 2 and 4 of them are missing. They're just not there. And I download the 2 because that's all I have. But then maybe 5 days later, I plug the microphone back into my laptop and the 4 old ones will suddenly appear. They weren't there before and suddenly they appear. So sometimes they show up in the app and sometimes they don't. And that gets to be a bit annoying. And that's what happened with Rahmat. I have audio from when I was inside the museum, but all of the audio when I was walking down the street, none of it was saved. And then no matter how many times I plug it in, they don't show up. So for whatever reason, I have no access to those audio tracks. I can't find them. So it's a bit annoying. And the other thing I thought about when I was editing is I noticed I have a bad habit of describing things. And I don't think that's very interesting for a YouTube video, right? What I set out to do is record the experiences that I have. So I go to the museum, and what I want to walk out with is a video of my experiences at the museum. But I have a bit of a bad habit of simply walking through the museum and talking about what's there, like describing what I see, almost like I'm giving a tour of the museum, right? And that's kind of boring. But I don't know how you break that habit, because like other YouTubers that don't do this, there's usually more than one of them. Like, for example, the Lost Boys, they have a big advantage over someone like me because there's two of them. And even if they go to a restaurant to have a meal and they want to record the meal on video, they basically just swap the camera back and forth. So, you know, they're not using GoPros for that. They're using higher quality cameras so they get nice video of the food. But then, you know, what's their names? Shane and I can't remember. But anyway, one guy will hold the camera and now he's filming his travel partner while he's eating his food. It's like, oh, this is so delicious. Oh, this is really spicy. His hands are free and he just talks. And then when he's done, they switch places and he gives the camera to him. Now he films the other guy. And then while one of them is talking to someone on the street or at a museum or anywhere, the other one is holding the camera from a distance and recording their interaction. And they basically flip back and forth that way. But because there's two of them and they would go out for a meal together, it is a social event and they end up recording the actual experiences. But if you go somewhere by yourself, it's really hard not to fall into the habit of just describing everything. So I go into the museum and rather than just taking video of me exploring the museum, I walk through the museum and say, oh, this is room number 1. And room number 1 is all about the African savanna. Look, here is an elephant and here is a rhinoceros and these are and room number 2 is all about reptiles and here are the reptiles. Room number 3 is their nature room, and their nature room, you know, I'm basically being a tour guide. And I noticed I would have a habit of doing that all the time. And like if you go into a shopping mall, like to go shopping, by the time I leave the shopping mall, I don't have a video about my experience of going through the shopping mall and doing things. I have a video of me talking about what's inside the shopping mall. So yeah, they have a shoe store, and up here on the 3rd floor, here's the food court. And how do you break the habit of just describing things? Anyway, in the Rahmat museum video, I noticed I was constantly just describing what was around me rather than taking video of my experience of the museum. And I was wondering, okay, how do you experience the museum more when you're by yourself? How do you interact more when you are alone? And then how would you take video of those interactions, right? And I was thinking about the ways you could do that. For example, you could go with another person. Like you could make an effort to meet people, invite them, hey, do you want to go to this museum together? And by the way, I want to make a YouTube video. Do you mind being on video? Or, and I've often thought about this and I've never really followed through on it, make an effort to meet some local English students. Like maybe there's an Indonesian English student, university student here in Medan, and they wouldn't mind hanging out with me for a day. Or I could even, you know, if my YouTube channel was making a lot of money, I could even pay them and say, listen, I want to go to this museum or I want to go to this restaurant. Would you be willing to come with me as camera person and translator or interpreter? Which one is it? Interpreter. And then I would pay them for their time. You know, it's going to take 3 hours. I'll give you whatever 100,000 rupiah or whatever the going rate is. And then, you know, come with me. You hang out with me, practice your English, and then that person would just follow me around with the GoPro, filming me doing things and I don't have to constantly worry about mounting the camera and filming myself. You know, they would film me. So instead of video of me standing in front of the African exhibit and going, oh, look, there's a lion. Oh, look, there's a hippopotamus, you know. You would have video of me standing in front of the exhibit. And even if I'm still describing and I'm saying, oh, look, there's a lion. Oh, look, there's a rhino. At least I'm in the video if someone else is handling the camera. And you could do that by paying someone to go with you, you know, or maybe people would volunteer to do it. So that was kind of one idea that I had. And that idea feeds into the next Planet Doug topic I want to talk about. So the big Planet Doug story is from 2 days ago. I went to another tourist attraction and I shot a video there. So I finally went to the famous Tjong A Fie Mansion. And that turned out to be a very interesting experience. I'm really glad that I went. I wasn't going to bother because it's one of those things where so many people tell you, oh, you have to go to Tjong A Fie Mansion. It's, you know, the big tourist attraction. Everybody goes to see it. Seems like such an automatic, expected thing. And then whenever I watch other YouTube travel videos from Medan, everybody goes to the Tjong A Fie Mansion. Even the Lost Boys, they went there and shot video there. And then it kind of, I thought, you know, why do the same thing that everybody else is doing? And I just thought, oh, it's just going to be another big empty house. But turns out it is a big empty house. However, the house is much more interesting than I thought it would be from many different points of view. But even more important than that, the life story of the man who built the house was fascinating, much more interesting and varied than I expected. And in fact, the man, Tjong A Fie himself, you know, the Tjong A Fie Mansion, he and his house and his life are central to the history of Medan. So since I've been going out exploring, of course, I'm learning more and more about the city. You go to the mosque, you go to the palace, you go to this neighborhood, you see all the buildings, and you start reading. Every time I do one of these things, of course, I'm reading online about the history of Medan. And the more I read and I find all these historical threads and pathways, a lot of them lead back to the Tjong A Fie Mansion and Tjong A Fie himself, because that's the name of the guy who built it. So before I went there, I did my usual thing. I like to do a little bit of reading before I go somewhere. And in the Indonesian language version of Wikipedia, I found a very long biography of his life. And his life story was really interesting. I mean, because, of course, he was an immigrant from China. And as a young man, he left China, came to you know, the Dutch East Indies. It was controlled by the Dutch at the time. This was, you know, a Dutch colony, of course. It was not Indonesia at the time. And his brother was already here. And that was his connection to come here. His brother, older brother, had already come. And now he followed in his older brother's footsteps and then came here to seek his fortune. He was already married back in China. So this is one part of his story I was confused about, because he had 3 wives in total. And when you read the story, it says, okay, he had a wife in China, but then he went to the Dutch East Indies. It wasn't even Medan at the time. The city had a different name. And then he married a woman from, I don't have all the details straight, but he married a woman from Penang. Chinese woman, but she was not from China. She was kind of local. And then when she died, he married a 3rd woman. So they always talk about how he had 3 wives. And when his 2nd wife died, he married a 3rd time. But I kept thinking about the wife back in China. It sounded like he just abandoned her. It's like, oh, he had a wife in China, but then he left and he remarried here. And I kept wondering, you know, well, what happened to that poor woman back in China? But when I was at the mansion, my tour guide, I asked her about this, and she said, no, he divorced her. So there was an end to that marriage. He didn't just abandon the woman. And I guess that was an arranged marriage. He was betrothed to her by his parents when he was still a baby or a young kid. And then, but he'd never loved her. It wasn't a love marriage, it was an arranged marriage. And then when he decided to go seek his fortune in the Dutch East Indies and found his fortune, at some point he divorced her. Maybe before he left or after he settled here, I don't know. But anyway, he did divorce her, apparently. But anyway, that's part of his story that I learned. And he started a grocery store, like a store, but apparently that store was very successful, and he started to make a lot of money. And I'd love to know more about that, but I couldn't find a lot of information about that. So he started to make a lot of money, but it turned out that he had a talent for mediating between all the groups of people that were here in Sumatra at the time. So he had language skills. He learned Malay, which was the common language at the time. So all the different groups, the Dutch, the Indonesians, different ethnic groups here in Indonesia, the Chinese, the Indian laborers. There was a lot of laborers from Java, came from Java to Sumatra, because Sumatra at that time was all about plantations, mainly tobacco plantations at that time, rubber plantations, banana plantations. And they had a lot of agricultural workers, and there were a lot of disputes between the Dutch owners of the plantations, the Dutch East India authorities, the Dutch government, the Chinese community and their leaders, the Indonesian communities and their leaders, the Indians. There was a lot of conflicts, of course, just normal labor conflicts, cultural problems, things that had to be worked out. And for some reason, because of his personality, everybody liked him. And Tjong A Fie was often approached by the Dutch authorities. He got to know the Sultanate of Delhi. He became friends with the 9th Sultanate of Delhi. And the Sultanate of Delhi would have to negotiate with the Dutch. And then Tjong A Fie would join these meetings and sort of mediate between them. And he became a key figure in the middle of all these various groups. At least that's how I read his story, and I found that really interesting. And because he was so helpful to the Dutch, to the Sultanate, to the local Indonesians, Chinese community, he became friends with all of the key figures in all of these organizations and all the levels of government, and then they started giving him concessions. So he would be given a land concession to make a big tobacco plantation, and he just started making more and more and more money, and he became incredibly wealthy and became one of the most important figures in the history of Medan. And a lot of this was part of his personality, where he was very much a philanthropist. And I believe him. Like a lot of people, the famous people, after they die, people start telling legends about them, and they become a much better person in death than they were in life. But I get the impression that Tjong A Fie really was a good guy, and he really believed in tolerance. When you go to the museum, there's like a plaque there, and it has his personal slogan about life. And his belief about life is, it's not all about how much you get. Life is all about how much you give. And in his lifetime, when he had all this, he accumulated all this wealth, he used that wealth to help people. He built temples, but he built temples for everybody. Like, he didn't just build Buddhist temples, he built temples, Buddhist temples, he built mosques. And he was a key donor for the Grand Mosque in Medan. He paid for a large part of the construction of the Grand Mosque. Churches, he built churches, he built orphanages, he built everything for everyone. So he wasn't just part of the Chinese community, he used his wealth to build schools for the Chinese community, for the Christian community, for the Muslim community, for everybody. And he was a key figure in philanthropy as well. So he really was, a very well-loved figure. And he had a very interesting life. I think he died when he was 61. So he passed away at my age. And in his lifetime, he did an amazing number of things. Went from a small village in China, left his home. He wasn't rich. He wasn't from a rich family. And then he picked up his entire life, moved all the way to the Dutch East Indies, started a store, became rich, became the leader of the Chinese community. I forget the name of that position, but his brother was the leader of the Chinese community. But when he died, Tjong A Fie became the official leader of the Chinese community. He was married 3 times and had bunches of children with every marriage. So his 3rd marriage, he had 7 children with his 3rd wife. And in fact, key to this whole story, I'm burying the lead here, the mansion, the Tjong A Fie Mansion, he had the whole thing built as a wedding present for his 3rd wife. So it was a present for her, and with her he had 7 children. And when you go on a tour of the mansion, I didn't realize this, much of the tour is based on the lives of his wife and his 7 children because they all lived there. So I got a tour guide. It's part of your payment. You pay 35,000 rupiah to get entrance fee to go into the Tjong A Fie Mansion. And as part of that, if you want, an English-speaking guide will take you through the mansion and tell you about the history of the place. But it wasn't until I was editing the video and listening to the tour guide that all the pieces fell into place. Because what I realize now, I didn't really realize it at the time, is that the tour wasn't really about the house, and it wasn't about Tjong A Fie. I felt like I knew about the house and like I knew about Tjong A Fie, but I had gathered all that information from my own research. It was in my head, and when I went there and got the tour, I was sort of expecting the tour guide to tell me all these things that I knew, like tell me about the life of Tjong A Fie, tell me about the mansion, the Malay influences, the Chinese influences, the Art Deco influences, the material, like where all the material came from. I was expecting all of that, but when I was editing my own video, I realized she never talked about any of that. She talked about the family. So like when you first go in, the very first thing the guide will show you is a big family photo of all the family. Tjong A Fie, his 3rd wife, his 3rd wife's family, and then all of his children. So he had 7 children with his 3rd wife, and the tour guide went through all of them. Okay, this is his 6th son, this is his 5th son, 3rd daughter, 3rd daughter, 2nd daughter, 1st son. And I remember at the time thinking, why is she telling me all this? I mean, I couldn't keep track. It was like it was an amazing photograph. I love the photograph, and tons of children, different ages, some of them married, some of them not. And she was going, okay, this is 2nd son, this is 3rd son, this is 2nd daughter, this is, and I was like, okay, I couldn't keep it all straight in my head. And I remember thinking, like, why are you telling me all about this, all about the children? And then it became clear as we started going through the house, because this house really was a family home for Tjong A Fie's wife and their 7 children, and they all lived there, and they all had bedrooms there. And as part of the tour, you actually go through a lot of their bedrooms, and they still have a lot of things from their life. It's sort of like going back to your family home, and your parents have kept your bedroom the way it was when you were in high school. And then you can go in and, oh, there's all your basketball trophies, and there's all of your, the books you read and the movies you liked and the posters on the wall. It's like a little picture of all of your interests and accomplishments and achievements from high school. And the rooms at the Tjong A Fie Mansion were a bit like that. So we would go from room to room, and then the guide would say, oh, this is the bedroom of the third son, for example. And if you look over here, you will see the cabinet with all of his trophies from go-kart racing, because apparently that was his passion. This son was a dedicated go-kart racer, and he would enter all these tournaments and win first prize, and he had all his trophies in there, right? So, and then you go to the next bedroom, like, oh, this is the bedroom of the fifth son, and those are all his golf trophies. His passion was golf, and he entered all these golf tournaments, and he won all these trophies, you know, as a golfer. And so they were sort of like, okay. So the tour that you get of the mansion was kind of about the life of the family of Tjong A Fie. And yeah, I mean, it was very, very interesting tour, and I enjoyed it very much. But it did surprise me a little bit. As I said, when we went through the whole tour, I just sort of accepted the tour as it was going on. And then there was a lot more about Tjong A Fie, but the tour was not really about the life of Tjong A Fie and the house's architecture. It was partially about that, but a lot of it was about the lives of his wife and his children. And it honestly wasn't until the tour was over that it all kind of dawned on me. It's like, oh yeah. Because after I did the tour, then I did what I normally do. You know, I went through the whole house with the tour guide, and I recorded the whole thing with a GoPro. More about that in a second. And then when the tour was over and I thanked her, of course I gave her a tip for the tour, and you know, we said goodbye. But then I went back through the whole house again on my own so I could read everything. And then I went back through the whole house a third time, taking pictures of everything and recording a little bit extra video here and there for my YouTube video. And it was only at that time it started to dawn on me. It's like, oh, yeah. That's why she was talking so much about the family and the third son and the sixth daughter and the this and that. And then when I was started editing the video, it all made sense to me. So, but yeah, really worthwhile. But I would say to go visit this museum, you really want to at least read about the life of Tjong A Fie first. Read up on him as much as you can, and the history of Medan. Like normally, I would say when you go to a new city, visit all the museums first, and then go out and explore the city. But in this case, it worked out better the other way around. I did all of my exploring of Medan, and I went to, you know, the State Museum, all that sort of thing. But then after I knew quite a bit about the city, then I went to Tjong A Fie Mansion, and now it was much more meaningful. It's like, oh, now I understand what this house is all about, what it meant to the people of Indonesia, to the people of Medan in particular. And yeah, so it worked out better that way, you know, to go there armed with some knowledge and experience the house from that point of view. So yeah, I guess I'll end today's behind the scenes with this last thought that in previous museums, I made a deliberate choice to use my Olympus camera because inside the museums it's low light, and my Olympus is better in low light than a GoPro. But I've had a lot of trouble using the Olympus. Mainly the field of view from my 12mm lens is too narrow. It's awkward to hold it, to take video of a tour guide while they're speaking, and then how do I hold this huge heavy camera over here to film the two of us. So when I went to Tjong A Fie, I brought the Olympus thinking I would use it, but I made a snap decision to just leave it in my knapsack. And I went there, you know, with a GoPro on my chest harness and a GoPro here, and then I just used this GoPro the entire time. And whether that video is terrible or not remains to be seen, because I haven't gone into the video enough. And I always look at video in a small window, like on my smartphone or on my editing program, but it's a very tiny little window, and I might look at it and go, "Wow, looks fine." But of course, viewers out there in the world, you know, if you queue up this video on your home television, widescreen TV, then you're going to see the difference between a GoPro in low light and something that is designed for low light situations, like a, you know, full frame camera, APS-C, micro four thirds, or even a you know, 1-inch camera. I think the 1-inch camera, like the one I keep talking about, the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, I think that would be a much better tool for these kinds of experiences. Small and lightweight, and yet 1-inch sensor, so it would get a lot better video than a GoPro. But anyway, I shot video with the GoPro the whole time, and I did this weird thing. I don't really think this way, because my idea is to record candid videos. I just go out and have an experience, and I record it exactly as it happened. I don't try to control it or manipulate it. But I thought, well, you know, just for fun, let's think a little bit in advance about how am I going to film this experience. So I sat here in my room, and I just sort of closed my eyes, and I pictured myself at the museum going through it, and then I pictured editing the video later. I was like, well, is there anything I can do to make a better video in the end? And the whole idea, of course, is to kind of create a shot list. So like, rather than just shoot video at random and then just throw it all together, why not think a little bit? And I actually wrote out a shot list for my video about the Tjong A Fie Mansion. I thought, can I make it a more professional video? And I did, to a certain extent. I even wrote out a little bit of a script at the beginning, and I says, okay, why don't we open the video with this information about the mansion, and I can have some B-roll, like take some video of the mansion, you know, beautiful video, and I can do voiceover narration about that, and that can be my intro to the video, and then I can jump to tour guide, and then I can jump from that intro, and then, hello, here we are at, you know, Tjong A Fie Mansion, and this is my tour guide. So, yeah, what is your name, and what are we going to learn today, and, you know, have a little chat with the tour guide. So I had this shot list in a notepad on my phone, and when I went to the mansion, I actually started following the shot list. But it turns out the whole thing fell apart, because you're out there in the real world, and the real world is not going to follow your shot list. And it was sort of like, in my head, I already had an idea of what I wanted the opening shot of me and my guide, what it was going to be like. I had kind of a script in my head and how it was going to look. So I had my GoPro, and then the guide was going to start the tour. But in her head, she does this tour every day. She's been who knows, she could have been working there for years. She knows how to do her tour. She has a script in her head, and now I kind of interrupted her script, and I kind of went, all right, so here, but she was already beginning her tour, and then I interrupted her tour, and I threw her off completely. She had something she wanted to say, but I was so confused and so distracted that I ended up interrupting her and putting out the GoPro, and then sort of like, oh, can we start again? Can we start over? And then I said my thing, and then, you know, she was in the video, and she was just like a deer caught in the headlights. She was like she didn't know what to do anymore, because I had interrupted her flow, and I did not get the opening shot that I was hoping to get. And then I just basically stopped recording, and I chatted with her a little bit, because I knew I had upset her, and I wanted to calm her down and just sort of reassure her and make her feel comfortable. We had a chat about, she asked me, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Canada. And I'd already told her about my YouTube channel, and I'd given her a name card, told her that I wanted to make a video about the mansion and asked for her permission. Is it okay if I record us during the tour? And is it okay if I put a microphone on you? We already went through all of that. But then I got her very self-conscious, and then I tried to relax her again. And then I thought, okay, come on, Doug, you're not a shot list person yet. Let's just cool your jets. And then I just, took out my GoPro as normal, hit record, and then I let her do her tour. So I allowed her to reset, and then she began her tour as a professional tour guide, and then we went through the house, and then I tried to film her. And from time to time, before, like when we finished with one room, and then we were going to go to another room, then I just kind of said to her, it's like, oh, can you hold on for just 1 second? Because I have to save the video from time to time. I don't want to record for an hour and risk losing the whole thing. So I said to her, yeah, occasionally I have to stop recording, save it, and then restart if that's okay. And then when I restarted, I would do a little thing with just me. So like, oh yeah, we just saw this room. I would say 1 or 2 things that are on my mind, and then say, okay, now we're going to this next room, and our guide is going to show us this and this. And then it's like, all right, let's go. And then she would say, all right, this way, sir, So I kind of did that from time to time, recorded a little bit of me, but for the most part, I just let her do her thing, and I'd record her speaking, and I'd move around a little bit to get her and the exhibit, and then go back to just her, and then maybe a little bit of me. But I didn't do anything like mounting the GoPro, because that would have been too much of an imposition on her. It's like, okay, oh, wait a second, let me go mount my GoPro over here. And of course, what am I going to mount it on? An expensive 100-year-old desk or table that belonged to Tjong A Fie, and I'm clamping my GoPro into something in their museum. I couldn't do that. There was nothing in the museum that wasn't either, over 100 years old or, beautifully preserved. And I can't go through there, a YouTuber, and clamping my camera to all the, the expensive mahogany furniture or Italian marble or whatever it is. So, I couldn't mount the GoPro. And again, I was thinking it would have been nice. I went there thinking, to be honest, that I was going to hire someone to be my camera person. I thought if there's a whole bunch of people at working there, maybe I could talk to my tour guide and say, okay, I'd like to film the tour. Is that okay? Get that permission. But then I could ask her, is there someone here that I can pay them to take the GoPro or to take the Olympus? To be honest, I wanted them to do the Olympus because it would be higher quality, but the Olympus would be way, way too much camera for an amateur to handle. For someone who isn't familiar with this Olympus, they're going to be freaked out. So I thought, okay, I can give them the GoPro, I can have a GoPro, and then this person can follow us around and film us as we go through the tour. And I did want to do that, but in the end, there wasn't a real opportunity to do that. It was difficult enough for me just to deal with my guide and use one GoPro in my hand. And of course, as we were going through the mansion, I was making decisions all the time what to film. So I'm filming her, but then at some point I just make a decision. Okay, she's talking about this photograph. At one point she's talking about the photograph, but now I change the camera, and now she's still talking, but she's not on video anymore. And now I'm recording that, and then I go back to her, and then I would go out and get a wider shot, then I would get a narrower shot. So I'm basically being my own camera person while I'm listening to her. And I think a total stranger, like just some average person, I don't know if I could trust them to do that. You know, some people might do a good job, but other people would have no idea what they're doing, and they're just like, and maybe they would just move the camera all the time, you know, rather than holding the camera steady. You know, you can't ask someone you run into on the street to become a skilled camera operator. I've been doing it for 5 years and I don't even know what I'm doing. So how can you expect a complete newbie to do it? So anyway, I did not hire someone to be the camera person, but I still think there's possibilities in that. You know, there's a way to do that. You know, of course, someone, you know, a really professional YouTuber like, you know, the best ever food review show, of course, he has a whole camera crew with him and an entire editing team. He has become the on-screen personality. It's his job to be funny and entertaining and knowledgeable about the food. He doesn't have to worry about anything to do with audio, video, nothing at all, camera angles, editing. And that must be kind of amazing. You know, that would be quite interesting to do. But to be honest, like if I think about somebody like the best ever food review show, I know the name of the guy, the YouTuber, but I can't think of it right now for some reason. Anyway, if I'm thinking about him and his YouTube channel, I would be better behind the camera than in front of the camera. Because like he's funny, he's high energy, he's entertaining, he's very social. I'm none of those things, but I think I would be very good. I would be a good camera person for him. Like he could be the on-screen talent and I would be better logistics behind the scene, maybe even just organizing it, because I'm not that good with cameras either and I'm not that good with microphones either, but I could, you know, organize the crew, make sure everybody's batteries are charged up, memory cards are good to go. You know, I've got, okay, you're doing this, you know. I would be better at that job than I would be in front of the camera. So it's almost funny, like if I wanted to make Planet Doug a professional experience, I would almost be better off not hiring a camera person. I might be better off hiring on-screen talent, someone young and good looking and funny and you know, and then I would just follow that person around with the camera and they could take a tour of the mansion and I would film them. You know, that could be the new Planet Doug, but of course, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, I think that is it. I had some other things I wanted to talk about, but I've been talking for a long time. I've already gone through, you haven't seen any of this, but I've gone through 2 memory cards and 2 batteries on the Olympus. I have to shut down every single time and restart the camera. I've done it 4 times so far, and every single time I have to reset the date and time, and it's a real hassle. And I've had enough for this morning. It's time to go into Medan and maybe have a small adventure. I'm thinking about going out and getting something to eat, something special, and bringing my cameras along with me. Probably my GoPros, because all my Olympus batteries now, they're all dead, so I can't use my Olympus anyway. So that's it. Shutting down, and I will see you in the next video.